And now, the general weather around Alaska.
Welcome to Alaska Weather. I'm meteorologist Peter Chan, coming to you from the National Weather Service in Alaska region on this Tuesday, February 11th, 2025. And if you'd like additional weather information on top of what I give you in this YouTube video, you can go to weather.gov. That is the National Weather Service's online presence, and it will bring you to a web page with a map of the continental U.S., Hawaii and Alaska to the lower left, and then tabs for the territories. And if you point and click anywhere on this map, it'll give you a very specific forecast for anywhere in the nation. And of note, on this Tuesday afternoon, we have a couple of winter weather systems impacting areas east of the Rockies. The first one moving out of the Tennessee, Kentucky, and Ohio valleys up into the Virginias are getting some locally heavy snow with some freezing rain in the lower elevations in some of the valleys, and then snow falling up here into the northeast. There's another stronger wave coming out right behind that that's going to spread a swath of accumulating snow from Kansas all the way up into Michigan. Some of the heaviest snow could be locally 5 to 9, 10 inches of snow within this band. Chicago area is looking at least 3 to 7 inches of snow, and some of the heavier snow maybe around 6, 8 inches just west of Detroit. So that'll be one of the more noteworthy snowfalls this winter. Certainly not a big snowfall for this area of the country, but it's been relatively warm and fairly quiet there at times, then followed by some really cold weather that we've been seeing on and off through there the past couple of weeks since the new year. And here in Alaska, we got another little blast of Arctic air that's going to come across the mainland starting Wednesday evening and then spreading westward down along the especially Yukon Valley into Saturday. It's going to be accompanied by wind, blowing snow, and then some colder temperatures and wind chills. Coming up Wednesday morning, full snow moon of February, so that's going to adorn the sky this Tuesday night and again on Wednesday. We do have a pattern change coming up next week into next weekend. We're going to start to see some low pressures come back up out of the North Pacific into the Gulf and southeast Bering Sea up to along the southwest coast. So we might start to see a little more active weather pattern here for the latter half of February, along with a chance of more in the way of some precipitation in areas that have been fairly dry now the past week or two. So up in Deadhorse, low clouds, some ice fog, 7 degrees. Winds are going to be picking up along the Arctic coast there, the Beaufort Sea coast, under a winter storm watch for ground blizzard conditions starting Wednesday afternoon, but especially as we go through Wednesday night, Thursday into Friday morning. So be ready for some stronger winds and blowing snow with reduced visibility and colder air temperatures. Right now on the southern slopes of the Brooks Range, Coldfoot, sunny, 9 degrees. And again, this area will also be seeing colder temperatures along with gusty winds that could lead to some blowing snow here for Wednesday evening through or into the day on Friday. Kodiak still picking up some light rain and fog, 40 degrees. It's been a wet pattern there along areas of the western Gulf and down along the Alaska Peninsula. Meanwhile, the Panhandle has enjoyed a stretch of clear skies and at least relatively lighter winds than initially when we had that strong high pressure, creating those strong gap winds last week, and along with the falling temperatures. The temperatures have moderated, but beautiful scene here. Cake, clear skies, light winds, temperature right around 32, a bit on the cool side, but at least not having to deal with cold wind chills. So this is the area. We're going to have this backdoor front come in from the northeast. There's currently an area of low pressure moving up the Mackenzie River Valley here in northwest Canada, and this little backdoor shot of Arctic air is going to come in from northeast to west, working its way westward. So that's why we have the winter storm watches Wednesday afternoon into Friday afternoon all along the Arctic coast from Point Hope all the way to Kaktovik. And these areas could see ground blizzard conditions at times with these gusty winds. Also the area, the Sag River, Kaparik, Middle River areas of the North Slope, and then also we have that area leading up to Anatuvik Pass, Coldfoot down through Gobbler's Knob. Could see some blowing snow, reducing visibility, making travel there more hazardous along the Dalton Highway as we go from Wednesday into Friday. Fairbanks area, including the Yukon Flats and west toward the middle Yukon, also within this area. Special weather statement just for the fact. Be ready for the colder temperatures, gusty winds that could lead to blowing snow, and make travel a little more difficult. And looking at the satellite imagery on this Tuesday, we still have high pressure in this region, though not quite as strong. The big high is way up here in the Arctic Ocean. It's going to be building above 1050 millibars. That's going to become the dominant feature here over the end of the weekend. So still clear skies, Gulf Coast and especially Panhandle into areas of South Central, but then we still have a little feed of moisture. It's what's left of a frontal boundary that's just kind of stalled out and weakened to more or less of a trough. So that's why Kodiak is still picking up some rain in areas along the Alaska Peninsula, Chicknick down to Sandpoint, showery, same thing around the eastern Aleutians around on Alaska. So as we get into later tonight and into early on Wednesday morning, we have this bit of a backdoor front that's going to be coming in from the north and east. Meanwhile, this low down here in the Gulf will track a little further north. This is just kind of an old boundary that's just keeping some clouds and a little bit of light precipitation around it. And then the stronger low from the other day is still way back there to the west along the Asia coastline. And that feature is not going to be charging east because it's this feature now, this high up here, that's going to be above 1050 millibars. It's turning winds more around to the east, and that is going to allow that Arctic air to quickly work its way across the mainland as we go from Wednesday night through the day on Friday into Saturday morning. This low will just kind of slowly lift northward, and it will eventually bring a little bit of light snow or a light mixed precipitation along the Gulf Coast. Some of that moisture may try to cross up over into the mountains surrounding Prince William Sound, the eastern Kenai, and up in the Copper River, but nothing heavy. Notice the isobars tightening here, so that means brisk easterly, northeast to east winds, and so that's what's going to cause the blowing snow. Dalton Highway areas of the Brooks Range, along portions of the North Slope, and along the Arctic coast. And into Friday, we still have some of that, especially out here along, say, Point Lay to Point Hope. There could still be some gusty winds and blowing snow. And then what's left of that low, this is kind of a weakened trough. It'll have a little bit of light snow, a mix of light rain and snow along the Gulf Coast into parts of the Panhandle for Friday. Here's the next low, and this is going to be the beginning of that pattern change I'm talking about. We'll start to see some lows coming up out of the North Pacific and moving back up into the Gulf and eventually up into areas of the Southeast Bering. This area has been very quiet thanks to the big high that was sitting here for the past week plus, and so we're going to start to see that shift out next week and into next weekend. Temperatures cold, 35 below at Fort Yukon. I mean, not exceptionally cold. Traditionally, climatologically speaking, for this time of year, you can be much colder than that. But nevertheless, this is where the cold air resides in through the central, east central interior. We have readings dipping down into the teens in the Panhandle, so just continue clear and crisp there. And then along areas of the southwest coast, still some readings near the freezing mark around Kuskokwim Bay, Macoriac there, and Nunavik Island, and then certainly as you trail out along the Alaska Peninsula and into the Aleutians. Wednesday afternoon, that backdoor front's going to be starting to push the colder air west and southwestward. Highs, though, will be above zero in most areas simply because of the mixing with the winds coming in, some cloud. There could be some passing clouds. Not looking at much in the way of snow. Can't rule out some patchy light snow, but it's going to be more of the wind causing the blowing snow. And then temperatures along the western and southern panhandle should get above freezing, mid-upper 30s, 38 there at Sitka, but only around 30 or so at Juneau. Meanwhile, along the west coast, we're still seeing mild temperatures, relatively speaking, 32 all the way up there to Wales, 33, Nome, and down along the YK deltas, Emonic 33, and as we get down along the Aleutians, still readings there in the lower 40s. But come Thursday morning, here's that hint of that colder air advancing westward. And again, winds picking up, so there's going to be blowing snow in these areas along the Arctic coast, along the North Slope, in through areas here of the central, east central interior, and in through the Yukon Flats. And then for Thursday afternoon, high temperatures aren't going to be especially cold, but still zero, single digits above or below. And cooling temperatures down a bit too, even down into southern parts of the state as we get into the weekend, because the Arctic air will completely push westward. And it's not going to be as potent as a couple of the Arctic air masses that we have seen this winter since the new year, or around the new year and thereafter. So Here we have the extended temperature outlook February 17th through the 21st, and we are going to see temperatures start to average above normal first here through the southwest into areas along the Gulf Coast. And this is actually going to build more with time even beyond the 21st. So once we get past mid-month, we're likely going to see above normal temperatures all across this area, the southeast mainland, all along the Gulf Coast, especially centered on the Panhandle and in through this region, south central. So get ready for temperatures to return to above normal because we're going to get a feed of southerly moisture coming up there from the North Pacific into the Gulf. Meanwhile, on the backside, cooler, drier northeasterly flow along areas of the northwest coast, Chukchi Sea coast, including the Seward Peninsula, and up there toward Point Hope and Point Lay. So as we head through that time frame, February 17th through the 21st, right now the precipitation outlook is for it to be above normal along and south of the Alaska Range, and especially in through the southeast portion of the state, as well as south central and the Copper River Basin, including Anchorage, could maybe potentially get some snow out of something like that as long as it doesn't get too warm. But just keep that in mind, especially once we get past mid-month after about Valentine's Day. Things should begin to turn around here as we go into next week.